We're going to talk about cold calling. So I am bringing in Hamish, Sara, Jed. Welcome. Give us a wave.
What's going on?
So happy to be here.
So glad that you're here. Hamish, I want to start with you.
All right.
Cold calling. Talk to me. Like, what's your number one tip for reps on cold calling?
So honestly, where most reps go wrong with cold calling is that they don't evoke any curiosity in the pattern interrupt. Like their whole opener is they like see something on LinkedIn and they get all excited about it. But to be honest, if it's made it to LinkedIn, then 10,000 reps have already done it. So they're not really bringing in any value add from the get-go. Think about it this way. Like when you get hit up on the street for like, you've got like the people trying to sell you like charities for UNICEF and it's like save the whales. Like think about how many times you've ever stopped for those people. And you could probably count on your hands how many times they've actually stopped you in New York and made you actually think about it. If you're actually getting stopped and thinking about it, that means they're evoking curiosity in your brain. And where a lot of reps don't do is they don't think about what's going to make someone really stop in that pattern interrupt and then doing it in the first 20 seconds. Because if you can't make them think, then they're not going to give you any time because you're not evoking that curiosity. At the end of the day, you really are just interrupting their day and they're going to kind of have that like Josh Braun zone of resistance up. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, if you can't do that, then I don't know, you got to work on it.
Hamish, when is the last time that someone stopped you in the first 20 seconds and you were like, oh yeah, I'm paying attention? Do you remember?
Like on the phone or in person?
Ooh, on the phone. Because most of us are on the phone, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The other day, but one of those reps, she was just absolutely amazing. Like I remember writing a post about it after and going, wow, this is really, really solid value add. She found a photo of me in a Blink-182 t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a massive Blink fan. It was the first album I ever got. And she mentioned like lyrics from All the Small Things. And it was just, I was just sold immediately. And that's like ultra personalization. But outside of the ultra personalization front, I just remember when someone said, could you do this? And would this make it better? And immediately I was just like, it made me think, pause. And I was like, actually, yeah, like you got 3 minutes.
Yeah. Giving people your time.
Yeah, I want to say one thing on that because you said the biggest thing for a cold call opener is curiosity.
Yeah. And
I agree. I think like a lot of times we focus on the personalization part, which is definitely important. But at the end of the day, if that doesn't connect to something that they're actually curious about or that's relevant, they're not going to have a conversation with you. And I think like asking a question that invokes curiosity comes from truly understanding your personas and like having a better understanding of what they specifically care about. But I guess I'm curious for both of you because you probably cold call way more than I do. What tips do you have for like creating curiosity in the beginning of a call, right? Because like how we hear about it is like with cold calling, it starts with skepticism, right? And you have to turn that into curiosity. But what tips do y'all have for specifically creating curiosity?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like going in and like almost kind of doing enough research that you can make an assumption about them. And then they like kind of stop and think and they're like, wait a second, you know, obviously you did enough research on me. You did enough research on the company that I work for. And now you are assuming a challenge that I have that's actually true. So I'm not saying go out and, you know, like spend 20, 30 minutes researching a prospect or company because that will take way too much of your time and your time is valuable too. So remember that. Mm-hmm. But like 5 minutes is all you really need to like go on LinkedIn, you know, go on their Twitter, like get a little bit more, like have a little bit of fun with it too. Like don't forget like this role and sales is like all about having fun and being creative. And I think once you realize that, that's when you start to have a lot of fun in the role. At least that's when I started to have a lot of fun in the role. But going back to your question, I think it's just like making those assumptions so much so that you're able to do so because you did a little bit of research beforehand.
Yeah.
That's a really, really good point, Sarah. So a lot of people say that you can't like personalize at scale in cold calling. Like I completely disagree.
Yeah, I agree.
With a smart Boolean search and a little bit of research by compiling a list of like 200 people in an ICP with the same interests, surprisingly, people actually tend to like the same shit.
We are special snowflakes. What are you talking about?
And that's the thing. Like you put all of that in your list and you put that into whatever dialer you're using. And then if you can tie your value add and you can tie that directly to a common interest, they make the assumption that it is personalized when realistically it's just a list of 200 people that you're just really good at delivering.
Yeah, segmented.
Yeah. All you really need is them to be like, wait a second, like, how did you know that? Or just like to just grab that like quick piece of curiosity from them. And then they'll actually give you the time to chat.
Sarah, that being said, what's your like number one top tip in terms of cold calling?
Okay. So this might be a little bit of a controversial one, but it's hard closing. I'm such a big believer in hard closing because my thing is, if you hard close, most of the time they're like, whoa, like, what are you doing? And then they're like, hold on a second. Before I agree to something, like, can you say why you're calling one more time? And then you get the second time to pitch. You get the second time to explain to them why they're calling. It's almost like getting a second chance, but now they're really paying attention. And then you have the opportunity to close again. And wouldn't you rather like more than one time to close because you don't want to, you don't want to mess it up? Or I think sometimes too, it's like with a new rep, you're so focused on asking really good questions that you start asking so many after a pitch, and then they don't end up closing. And you're like, close for the meeting, come on, like close. Like that's the whole point of the call. So instead of like making it really hard for yourself, hard close. And then if they're like, okay, wait a second, you get a second opportunity, then you get to close again. And most of the time, like they'll end up taking you up on that, second booked meeting because they gave you the time. They understand why you're calling. You found a need. And also sometimes if you hard close, I have had a few people, they're like, you know what? Yeah, great. You called it a great time. Like, let's do it tomorrow at 2:00. And you're like, okay, wait a second. I don't have to do any of the hard work.
Yeah.
Like I just pitched and obviously it was good. And sometimes they'll even compliment you too. Like you get really good like VPs of sales and CEOs that I call, and I know that they have a team next to them that are doing exactly what I'm doing. And sometimes they'll even be like, honestly, great pitch. Like I wish my team pitched like that. Like let's do it tomorrow at 2:00. And then it's a great conversation opener too when you go into that meeting to be like, well, how is your team cold calling? Like what are they doing that's working?
Right. What's different?
Yeah.
What can you give us a little soundbite? What does the hard close sound like for you?
Yeah. So for me, I would finish my pitch and I'd be like, Leslie, it'd be really ignorant of me to tell you how I could absolutely support you just this second, but I would love to chat further tomorrow or Thursday at 2 or 4 p.m. Eastern time, what works best for you. Make it as easy as possible. A lot of them are up off their desk. Like they don't have their calendar right in front of them, but if you could give them a little time snippet, maybe in their head, they're like, you know what? I actually think tomorrow at 4:00 works. Like send me an email. And then I always do a departure drill. Like sounds great. What's your email? This is the email I have. Is there anyone else that you'd like to add to the call? That way you can kind of like kill two birds with one stone. And then also like the last question that I'll ask is, I threw a lot of things at you, but what would you like to tailor the meeting to so I could best come prepared to that meeting as well? And then you already know going into the meeting exactly what you're going to cover.
I feel like Jed's got some hard feelings ready.
No, I'm sure there's probably people that are skeptical of that, right? And I think a lot of managers go against that. There's a few reasons why I think that's huge. First off, if you've been on the other end of a cold call, it's so annoying, like you said, Sarah, when someone just keeps asking you questions and doesn't get to the point. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're calling executives, like the number one thing is you're interrupting their time. So it's kind of a sign of respect, right? Like you're getting straight to the point. And the second thing, my last SDR team I managed, we used to have competitions around how many times you could ask for the meeting, right? Like if we
do that too.
Yeah, there's a direct correlation. If you're getting a lot of conversations but not booking meetings, start tracking for a week, like how many times did you actually ask for the meeting? Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you never swung the bat, you're never going to hit the ball, right? So it's like, if you change your goal, and we were talking about it earlier, or Sarah and Charles, when they were saying your goal of a call should be a conversation. I agree with that. And I think your other goal should be how many times can you ask for a meeting? If that's your goal, because that's something you can specifically control, you can't control getting a meeting, and you just say, I'm going to see how many times I can ask for the meeting. You're certainly going to get more meetings in the long run.
I'm all about the hard close, but I feel like you still have to search for that aha moment. Mm-hmm. I think where a lot of reps fail in their cold calling is they're not reading the emotion. Like they're not reading the sales psychology of the prospect enough to actually understand when that aha moment is.
Yeah.
And I strongly believe, like a cold call isn't a meeting.
Yep.
A cold call is about generating enough interest that they're curious enough to actually jump on a meeting. because you don't want to like reveal all the secrets on the cold call. Otherwise they're going to be like, do you know what? I've actually just heard enough that I don't need to sit down with you.
Yeah.
Send me an email and then we'll talk in like a few weeks. I'm ready to sign a contract. So it's that thing where you go, okay, well, search for that aha moment. And as soon as that happens, that's when you book the meeting.
Yeah.
Because you want to strike when it's hot.
Yeah.
Because the more you talk after that, you can only go down from there.
Yeah. So
Because
the
they-
timing.
Because they
Strike when the iron's hot.
Yeah, exactly.
Always say it.
and they're now seeing you as a true like solution to an issue they have. You don't need to solve multiple issues. You just need to solve one painful enough issue that they're going to be like, okay, do you know what? I want to know more.
I love it. I want to jump into some questions. You guys feel ready for some questions?
Let's do it.
Questions?
Yes.
From the Q&A section. Okay. She says, when someone says, take me off your list, what do you say to them?
I actually get that a lot. And I usually just say, listen, it's not necessarily a list. However, if you give me 30 seconds now, if what I say is not valuable to you, I'll never call you again. And most of the time they'll say, okay, you have 30 seconds. But a lot of the time as well, you kind of just get a hang up. It's kind of like a cheeky thing that you can say, like once you get a little bit, more confident, but that's usually what I say to take me off your list. I don't know what you guys say, but
Do you have a different answer?
If it's on email, I don't say anything because as soon as I respond, they're just going to report me to spam.
Yeah.
So I just go, okay, well, this isn't worth it. And I don't want my, my domain blacklisted. But if it's on a cold call, I just go the empathy route. I'm like, I'm sorry. It sounds like I've upset you. And then just pause and then see what they say. And most of the time they're like, oh, actually, no, it's fine.
So the next question here says, anonymous attendee says, when people say it's not the right time, how can you create a sense of urgency?
Over call, email, or just in general?
Let's talk call.
So I guess it depends on when it comes up in the call, right? Because lots of times it's not the right time is usually just a front for I'm actually not interested. So if it's in the beginning of the call and they say it's not the right time, I would kind of come back to what Sarah sort of said and say, no worries, it seems like I maybe didn't communicate clear enough the reason why I was reaching out. You come back to your research, you say, do you mind if I take an extra 30 seconds to kind of clarify why I was reaching out? If it comes out later in the conversation where you've actually discussed a few things and it's more of a legitimate objection, the way I would handle that is just try to dig a little bit more and try to understand. No worries. Is this something that you see making more sense in the coming quarter? And if so, what's going to change between now and then? And I think the biggest thing is less about what you say, but more in your tone and that you're not coming across as desperate for the meeting, but more so genuinely trying to understand where they're coming from.
yeah.
And a lot of that comes from starting with the whole idea of not trying to book a meeting. You really have to flip your perspective. I'm just trying to be curious.
Yeah.
But yeah, curious if you guys have different perspectives on how to handle that one.
I mean, just mirror and label. Not a good time? Or it sounds like I've got you at a bad time. How about 30 seconds? Again, it's just like you've already got them. And quite frankly, if they're not interested, they're really not interested, then they're going to screen the next 10 phone calls you actually give them anyway.
Yeah.
So
Well, they'll just hang up. So, but I usually say I'll say something like, if I only called sales leaders at the right time, I'd be making 0 calls. So can I just have 30 seconds? I'm like, please take my call.
Please talk to me. Okay, so I have quite a few people on here asking about if their customer doesn't live on LinkedIn, if they're in creative industry or they're business owners or they're just not industries that are typically on LinkedIn, how they're going about researching, prospecting, that sort of thing. Phone, email, what else do you guys add in for industries that aren't living on the LinkedIns?
I could start because I've recently been going after a lot of construction companies lately. And let me tell you, construction guys are not on LinkedIn, if that brings a shock to you. But what I tend to see works best, and not because I do this all the time, not biased answer, it truly is giving them a call on their cell phone. Or honestly, I never say ring office numbers because everyone's not there anymore due to everyone working from home. But all the construction guys are sitting at their desk, again, believe it or not. So give them a call, and where you could find the best information is simply on their website.
Yeah.
companies will most likely 9 times out of 10 always have a pretty good website that you can get really good valuable information for when you're going to give them a call or write them an email.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I have a client that I'm working with that sells to very small businesses, and hardly any of them are on LinkedIn. And so we have to do a lot of like Google Map scraping to pull in that information. And it's hard to find research and trigger points to kind of personalize your messaging around. But what is really successful is when it comes to these smaller businesses or ones that aren't, they're actually all working in an office or a location, like restaurants, for example, is locational social proof. Yeah. And so mapping out your list based on the customers you have in that area, so that when you are calling them, it's just a little bit more friendly, like, hey, just giving you a call. We're working with so-and-so down the street. This is why I was reaching out. You can still find job postings. Like, I think job postings are the number one place to find relevant information because they're literally telling you what are the specific reasons they're hiring this person to, like what problems they want them to solve. Mm-hmm. And so you can still find job postings on their website. But at the end of the day, with those types of businesses, it is a lot more about the phone for the most part. So, you're probably going to have to accept that it's less research and maybe just more calls, because that's where you're going to find that information anyways.
Yeah. Also, a lot of those people sometimes, like, they don't understand always what a cold call actually is.
Yeah.
So use that to your advantage.
We are getting close on time here, so I want to get to a couple other questions. Kayla asks, how about people who ask you for more information, like a white paper, send me more information sort of deflection, and then every time you follow up with them, they haven't had a chance to look at it, they never read it. Do you have some sort of conversation starter?
Yeah, if I get them on a call and they say, hey, Sarah, like, honestly, this does sound like pretty relevant, and can you just send me over an email? I always say, hey, yeah, I can 100% send you over an email. However, it's going to be fairly generic, right? Typical one-pagers are fairly generic. However, why don't I send you over that email? We still set some time aside tomorrow or Thursday at 2 p.m. so we can actually go over the email together. That way, if you have any questions, I can answer them to you in that meeting as well. So kind of just like still getting what you want, but
I like mine might be a little bit more of a hot take because my thing is, and I realized this once I became a manager, is just rapid fire. I actually have good information to send. Like sometimes people want information, you know what I mean? And I feel like reps are very trained to just ignore it and say like, no, like, what do you want to see? And then move past it. But actually spend some time talking to your customers and figuring out what sort of information would be helpful. Maybe you create a custom video.
Yeah, I love that.
A lot more thoughts there, but that's my quick
and
take.
I guess
super rapid fire.
Okay, a 40-second video. You got to ask that one question in discovery. What's good look like for you, and what's most important to you? So I can send you something, and it'll only be a 40-second video, and make that really clear. Because if they can't watch a 40-second video, then they're not going to read a case study.
That was fire.
There you go. You asked for it.
You
asked for it, Les.
We'll see you soon.